guys, it's me, Shaw360, and for the first time ever, I am going to attempt to review two shows at once. And actually, this is a really neat pair of shows to review, so I've already begun the process of reviewing Uncontrollably Fond, but I've decided to pick up the series W to review as well. Now, going into W, I really didn't know much about this series at all. In fact, I didn't even know this series was airing until I was reading a couple of articles about Uncontrollably Fond, and they were saying how Woo Bin's best friend, Lee Jung-suk, he is starring in W, and that W is whooping Uncontrollably Fond in the ratings. So I said, okay, well, let me check this out. And from what I understand, the premise of the show has to do with webtoons and alternate realities or double realities. So that sounded intriguing to me. And Lee Jung-suk, I remember him very well from watching Secret Garden, where he played the gay songwriter. And I'm not saying that because his sexuality necessarily matters in life. It's because that was part of the plot point of his character, is that he was in love with Oscar, but Oscar kind of also appalled him at the same time because Oscar was just like such a I'm the best singer in the world. So yeah, that was a plot point for Secret Garden. But yeah, anyway, I decided to go ahead and check out the first two episodes, and I liked them so much I decided I'm going to go ahead and try to review the series. You guys, if you give me good feedback, I will continue. If you don't want me to continue to do W, I won't. I'm going to finish Uncontrollably Fond. I'm 8 episodes in. I can't not finish Uncontrollably Fond. But W, it's still not too late for me to not review it, so if you guys don't want this, just let me know and we'll move on to something else. But to start with, I'm not sure, and correct me, let me know what the scoop is. I'm not sure that W is actually a web series. In fact, I'm pretty certain it's not, that it's a series. I think it's a series that was made up for the premise of this drama. However, I think that that's a really clever thing to make up for a drama, because so many dramas lately have been based on webtoons. Cheese in the Trap was based on a webtoon. There's some more that I'm not thinking of right now because I'm not familiar with every webtoon out there. But definitely there's a lot. Oh, Let's Fight Ghost, which is currently airing right now with Taekyeon. That's a web series. So a lot of manhwas are being made into Kdramas. So I think it's really cool to create original web drama for the premises of a K-drama. So that's really awesome. I think it's cool how they inverted that. I also like the fact that a lot of the way that people follow dramas and kind of that whole culture surrounding manhwas is being explored in this, because prior to finding out that Cheese in the Trap was based on a manhwa, I don't think I'd ever really examined that manhwa culture, but it played a significant part into the popularity and then later significant drop in popularity of Cheese in the Trap, because it's one of those things that comes out every week. People follow it for weeks, months, sometimes years. And when they're following these characters and they're super invested in them, you sometimes don't understand like what goes on behind the scenes of stuff like that. So I thought it was really cool to kind of show what goes on behind the scenes, you know, how this affects the artist, how this affects the people who are reading it, even though we haven't delved that far into it yet. But I mean, the crux of the situation from what I understand so far is that the artist, who is the father of Oh Young-ju, he doesn't want to continue this comic strip manhwa anymore. He's tired of it. The character, I guess, has sucked his life away from him. He's been drawing this guy for 10 years now, and he's just done. He doesn't want anything else to do with this character. And we don't think about that sometimes. When you're a consumer of the art, you don't really think about the artist and the life that they're living. And I thought that was really great to bring up, because from what we know so far, the artist is divorced from his wife and he still asks after her, so there might be some lingering feelings there. His daughter lives with his wife, so apparently they're probably not as close as he would want them to be, and he tends to be kind of held up in a room surrounded by his art and ideas and stuff like that, but he's not really interacting with a lot of people. So, you know, in a way, this cartoon has taken over his life, and so I guess maybe in an attempt to get his life back, he's decided he's going to kill this character. But there's something to this character, some magical element that you have to suspend reality for, that makes it to where the character not only refuses to die, but somehow is able to manipulate our reality, because we're the people reading the comic, manipulate our reality to not only prevent his character from dying, but also pull people from our reality into his made-up cartoon world. And that's very interesting. That's very interesting. It's kind of like an extended take on the Aha Take On Me video, which if you've never seen Aha's Take On Me, classic 80s video, classic 80s song. The premise, a girl's reading a comic book, gets pulled into the comic book, and then her and the main character have to escape the villains of the comic book. And in order to escape, they have to get out of the comic book, and she brings the main character into the real world. But anyway, so when we start the comic, it starts off with the tragic backstory of the lead character, because every good superhero has to have a tragic backstory. So the tragic backstory is that our lead character, Kang Chul, which if you say it fast enough, it kind of sounds like canceled. Canceled. But anyway, Kang Chul, he is a 17-year-old sharpshooter. And he apparently hasn't been at the sport for very long, but his father is the coach of the national team. And he has soared up the ranks in like a really quick amount of time. He is on the world stage at the Athens Olympics, and it's time for him to shoot. And it looked like he wasn't going to win, but he ends up capturing the gold in the Olympics. Sometime later, we're not sure how much later, his family's at home, his father, his mother, his brother and sister at home enjoying a soccer match, and there's a ring at the doorbell. They think that it's Kang Chul coming home to, enjoy a little after work television with the family. Instead, it is somebody who is holding Kang Chul's sharpshooter gun from the Olympic tournament, and he is executing every member of the family. And of course, since it's Kang Chul's gun, he doesn't have a great alibi for that night. Him and his father had been arguing because he decided to go away from sharpshooting and go into, I think, electronics and computers. He's framed for murder, and he actually gets found guilty, but then they go to a retrial, and he's found not guilty because of the inadmissibility of the evidence, not because he wasn't guilty. But after coming off this trial, he does go home, but everyone at home is dead. His neighbors look at him with suspicion and with out and out hostility because they believe that he murdered his family. And so he's ready to kill himself. But at the last minute, he decides, I'm not going to kill myself because I have a mission, and my mission is to find the person who took my life from me. So that is kind of the start or the genesis of his storyline in the comics. Well, then we're in the real world where we have the daughter of the cartoon's creator. She is a medical student / doctor intern at a hospital in Korea. And her professor is a big fan of the manhwa. And he tells her, if you can give me a spoiler as to who actually killed the family, I will let you operate on a heart. I'll let you open it and close it during heart surgery. And if you're a surgical intern, this is the dream, to be able to perform these things. So she's ready to ask her father for the answers, beg him for the answers so that she can go ahead and get, Professor Park to give her this opportunity. Well, when she calls over to her father's studio, it turns out that her father is missing. So she runs over to the studio to try to find out where he's at because he left his phone behind. No one saw him leave the building. They don't know what's going on. Well, she goes into his room and somehow or another gets pulled into the comic strip. And when she gets pulled into the comic strip, she doesn't really realize what's happened, but she sees a man bleeding out on the ground. So of course she's ready to render aid. And when she renders aid, the aid helps to save him at least until paramedics come and he is transported to the hospital. And then she gets pulled back out of the comics and she doesn't understand what's going on. But then she realizes after she's kind of woken up from this, fantasy, alternate reality, whatever, that everything that happened with her saving this man is now a part of the manhwa. So she quickly embraces the idea that, hey, I jumped into this comic. Like, that's what happened to me. And she's telling the comic writers at her father's studio, and they're, of course, like, listen, that's not what happened. You are crazy. You need to calm down. That's not the thing. But then, later on, in the second episode, she gets pulled into the comic again. This time she gets pulled into the comic when her father is trying to kill off the main character again, this time by pumping potassium into his bloodstream. She manages somehow or another to get back in the comic strip to save him again, but this time she has a little bit more interaction with him because he's now conscious, whereas when the first time she saved him, he wasn't conscious. And as he's conscious, he's asking her questions she can't really answer because in the comic strip world, her hospital doesn't exist. her email, her phone number don't exist. She really doesn't exist. She's untraceable. And so she's trying to find a way to like do what she can to save the lead character, but at the same time not kind of get herself caught up in any of the drama of the webtoon. And that, I think, is the only weakness that I've seen to this show so far. Like, for the most part, I like the acting. I think the writing's pretty tight. But the part that's a weakness for me is that while she's trying to extricate herself from being involved in the cartoon and everything else, and she's kind of giving these crazy answers, the way that her answers are, I'm just imagining if I was a person reading this web series, and I've been reading this web series for years, the way that this character talks and the way she's addressing herself, I wouldn't understand the motivation of the writer. Because, first of all, she's mentioning real life places that don't exist in the comic strip, so that's kind of weird. They show her business card. Well, if I was a diehard fan, I'd be like, well, maybe this is some kind of promotion or something, so maybe I can send emails to this email, or maybe I can call this place. By the time the week was over, she would have been inundated with phone calls, emails, people showing up to the hospital asking for her signature on a printed out version of the comic strip. Like, she would have gotten way more attention than they allude to in the drama. And then she has moments where she's talking to herself about being sucked into the comic world. And if those things are printed out on the page, again, as a reader, I'd be like, what are they talking about? What's going on? Did I miss something? Like, they're really doing something weird with this character here. I don't understand. Well, anyway, the second time she's in there, she thinks she's going to go home because she stopped the potassium attack, but she doesn't go home right away. Instead, a time loop happens while she's inside the comic, and within like the matter of a couple of minutes, 2 months pass in the comic strip, because that's the way it is in comics. Time revolves around the main character's motivation, so it really means nothing, not like it does currently here. So the main character meets up with her after being in the hospital for 2 months, 2 minutes, and they go to a boutique to change her clothes because she's wearing a sweater and it's currently summertime in comic book Korea. So she goes into the fashion store with him to change clothes, and while she's in there, she's kind of like, shit, how do I get out of here? Because I need to get out of here. I got to go back to work, because she actually got sucked into the comic while she was going to pick up tiramisu and coffees for her work friends. But she figures, okay, well, usually comics, they'll end on a big kiss or they'll end on a big fight. I'll do something to kind of motivate an ending for this particular chapter of the comic. And so she ends up slapping him, but that doesn't do anything. So then she turns around and kisses him and runs away. And that seems to be where the to be continued comes in. That to be continued is how she knows she's about to jump out of the comic book. So keep that in mind for future episodes. But yeah, in the comic book, the main character is wondering about this girl because she comes out of nowhere. She acts really crazy. She's managed to save his life twice. Like, he's wondering, is she working with the person who wants to kill me? Is she a guardian angel? He says that he believes her to be the key to his life, which shows a level of self-awareness, a breaking of that fourth wall, if you will, that we're not used to with comic characters. So, I mean, this whole concept is a very interesting concept to take. Well, after she jumps out of the comic book and she goes back to the hospital where her colleagues were, her father is he takes his computer, unplugs it, goes home after firing the entire editor staff because he wants to kill this character. So he goes home and starts drawing a car accident to kill off this character. And in the comic strip, that starts to happen, but all of a sudden time freezes and Kang Chul is able to move the car around to escape this accident. And as the artist is looking at the palette, the car itself disappears, and all of a sudden a thought bubble pops up that says, "Who are you?" And it's so crazy and it's so freaky, and there's so many unanswered questions. First unanswered question, who killed this boy's family? Second unanswered question, why does the prosecutor have it out to get him? Third unanswered question, where was the father when he disappeared the very first time? forth? Does the father have some magic mystical thing going on with this comic strip? There's so many unanswered questions, and there's so much fertile ground to explore with this concept that I am intrigued. I definitely want to follow this show to see where it lands. So I'll be watching a couple more episodes, doing another review. I can't promise you what the pacing will be of the reviews that I'm doing because, like I said, I'm still doing Uncontrollably Fond. You know, that one I'm a little bit more regular with, but this one I'm having to play catch up a little bit, and then I should be on real time for the most part. And I'm watching the series on Viki, in case you're wondering where I'm watching it at. But yeah, I didn't come into this with any expectations, and I'm glad I didn't, because I don't think I could have actually prepared myself for this. Like, this is just, it's really very interesting, and it brings me to mind a lot of these other kind of under the looking glass type of fictional ideas, like the Truman Show, where the baby was picked at birth and a whole world was built around them, but that world, everyone at home and the audience was looking in it, and it was being manipulated by producers on the outside. Like, these kinds of concepts I find very interesting, the alternate realities kind of thing, because, you know, when you think about your life and you think about who you are and your opinions and your outlooks and everything else about you, all of that was kind of cultivated in the petri dish that is your life. The country you were raised in, the language you grew up speaking, the type of parents you had, the schools you went to, what you watched on television. And for every single person, we all have a separate, different kind of petri dish that we're cultivated in. And so that's why my personal opinions might be very similar to yours, but still slightly different. That's why we all speak different languages. That's why we all enjoy different foods. We all have something that's different about us. And where we grew up at, the places that we live at, the way we interact with our environment help shape us. So in a way, we are living, all of us, in alternate realities. I'm living in the reality that Shawwal 360 inhabits, but you're living in the reality that you inhabit. And this cartoon character lives in a reality that he inhabits, and for the first time, somebody's getting a chance to escape their reality, their environment completely, and be in a completely separate environment. You know, because even somebody from the earth going into space, you're still surrounded by earth and things. But when she's going into this comic world, she's surrounded by something that's completely made up by somebody else. It may very much be similar to the world you're used to, but it's completely disconnected because it's made by a separate creator. So I don't know, I just find the whole alternate reality thing very cool. You know, Inception, those kind of things. I just really, Total Recall, I just really dig that kind of media, kind of almost sci-fi aspect to media, if you will. So yeah, I'm digging the show. I'm digging the concept. Now I know that people were complaining about the lead actress. I don't have complaints about her. Yeah, she is extremely high strung, but I feel like if I got sucked into an alternate reality, I would be pretty high strung too. Like, I would either be extremely high strung and paranoid because I don't know when the next time is I'm gonna pop into this reality. I don't know if I get killed in the comic book, will I be killed in real life? Like, there's a lot that would happen that I would be nervous about. So it'd either be me, like, being totally fried on edge, like, oh my god, what the fuck's gonna happen? I don't know what's gonna do. Or I would be like super duper quiet, low key, because I would be afraid that somebody would find out something about me and they might try to put me in the psych center. So I'll be like, yes, nothing's going on here. It's okay. It's okay. Like, I would be one of the two. You know, it'd be hard for me to maintain a completely normal facade when I'm literally jumping between realities, you know? And also, I'm sure for her also, there's a lot of fear. Not just fear of, you know, what would happen to me in the alternate reality, what's happening to me in real reality. She's probably afraid she's going to lose her job because, you know, when you're popping in and out of realities, changing clothes, all this kind of stuff, there's a good chance you might lose your job. But also her father. What's going on with her father? You know, that'd be another thing, like, father, you know, have you been popping in and out of this reality? Like, what's going on? And a lot of people are speculating that the father might be the killer, which that would make sense. He created this world. He has times when he's not there. You know, what if he jumped into the comic and he tried to stab Kang Chul to death in the first episode. We don't know at this point, only 2 episodes in, we don't know what's really going on, but these are all things I would love to explore, and I really look forward to exploring it with you guys, and I want to hear your thoughts and your opinions down below. The next review I do for this series will be episodes 3 and 4, and I think 5 and 6 are currently uploaded to Viki, or they are currently uploading to Viki. I don't know, but we'll see, and I'll review it as I get along to it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this. I know I was rambling like crazy. I'm so sorry, but I'm really excited about this concept, guys, and when I'm excited, I tend to be kind of all over the place, but I'll calm down. I feel like my next review, I'll calm down unless like something super crazy happens, in which case I can't make you no promises, sorry. But yeah, I will talk with you all later. Bye.